All right. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Call Halayim La Alahayanawa, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Makakudash, Shalom Barakim, Labakarim Yasha Allah, Washin Yakabag, Gawala Kwab, Zakonim Nawa, Waha Shala Yakim Nawa, Yasha Allah, Ba'aith. All right. Giving all praise to the Most High Yahweh, in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai. Peace and blessings be upon the elect of Israel. The Akim, the Akwathim, the Bunim, Yasha'al, the men, women, and children, the elect of our nation selected to make it out of here, receive deliverance from our Savior, Yahweh Shai. I want to say double honors, of course, to our elders and apostles in these times in the English, known as Great Millstone. We get that from our revelation. The Spirit has coined and gave them that name, a very spiritual name, and they rule well. Those are our masters and our teachers in these times. So double honors unto you all, which is Senya Kabbalah Lakum, which means double honors to you all in the Hebrew. And just before I head into the workplace today, I had a video lined up, just a little tired last night, which Lord willing, I'll do the Hebrew, I'll do the quick prayer later on this evening. But right now, and the Spirit just told me, let me just go in and speak about, you know, on the backside of what I want to do later, which is how we ought to speak. All right. And we ought to speak boldly and with confidence, no matter the situation. So this is let me get Ephesians 6, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 19. All right, and shalom to all the elect that will be tuning in. All right, hopeful and sincere for elect. This is Ephesians, all right, chapter 6, verse 19. It says, as for me, actually, let me start at 18. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 18. It says, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, Barakah, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplications for all saints. All right, so we're supposed to be praying for all saints, you know. It says for the, you know, the body of Yahweh Shai, and this is it right here. It says praying, it says, and for me, that utterance might be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. So before I talk about, you know, as we ought to speak, I just want to point out something else spiritual that I noticed. It says, for which I am an ambassador in bonds. So we are representatives of Yahweh Shai, and we're slaves to that representation. All right, this is our lot, you know. If you're in a camp, you don't always want to hold signs, you know. You don't always want to be a reader. You want to be able to get on a level to where you want to speak. Now, of course, the Spirit may have it where, you know, certain things are set up in camps and areas where, you know, it's a certain time frame, a process before you're able to speak. But you want to be able to prep yourself, be ready for when the Spirit calls on you. You know what I mean? That's why in football they have these guys on what they call a practice squad, right? So that way, if anything happens to any players, for whatever reason, they go down and they fall out, they can't continue on the season, what do? They bring up the next man. They usually get somebody from the practice squad, because somebody on the practice squad already knows the scheme, already knows the communication, and is ready, you know, and is confident that they can fill the position as needed be. All right, and we are ambassadors in bonds. All right, now it says that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. All right, so this is really like an exhortation, if you will. If no matter what situation you're in, if it comes down to it and the truth is coming out and you have to speak, you're supposed to speak boldly and confidently. Hey, even if your voice cracks, all right, even if you squeak or you sound timid, you still have to speak the truth of Yahweh Shai Shai as we ought to speak. All right. And I didn't have any precepts lined up. That was my basis right there. But I'm going to give Matthew 10, and this is the reason why we ought to speak boldly. All right, Matthew 10, and I'm going to start at 16. It says, behold, this is why we ought to speak boldly. It says, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So the majority, this world, all right, everybody that we're going to come encounter with, the majority of these people, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be wolves. All right, so we're sheep sent amongst them. But it says, be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. All right, in order to be wise as serpent, you have to be very confident in what you know. All right, in order to be wise as a serpent and to be harmless as a dove, because that means you have a perfect balance. All right, you have a balance in what you know, what you need to say, and what you shouldn't say through the spirit and power you held by Shemal Rashad. Verse 17, it says, "But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles." So be aware that being that we're on the forefront and we're speaking this thing boldly, it's going to come a point in time where a lot of us are, some of us are actually going to be brought before your entire state, before your entire providence. You know, all eyes are going to be fixated on you, if you will. You're going to have a jury looking, if a jury's even going on in them times, because they did do away with the due process, but the statement that Yahweh Shai said still stands. You'll be brought before somebody that's calling himself a judge. All right, and in them times, you're supposed to what? You're supposed to speak boldly as you ought to speak. When Yahweh Shai was brought before Pilate, it didn't note in the scriptures that he was scared to speak, or that he quietly said this, or he slowly walked up and said that. No, he just answered. There were times when Yahweh Shai was speaking so boldly and confidently that the crowd, even though they were gainsaying and murmuring, they had nothing to say further after he was done speaking. And that's how it should be when we speak. When we speak the words of Yahweh Shemal Rashai, like it says in Hebrews 4:12, we're supposed to be quick and powerful with it. You know, get to the point, if you will. Verse 18, it says, and ye shall be, or verse 19, Matthew 10:19, it says, but when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what. All right, but when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak. All right, so you, if they got you locked, especially in them times, man, if they got you locked up in the back of a van, your hands behind your back with a fucking bag over your head, guess what? You're gonna have to remember, don't worry about trying to have something pre-written down or something like that. You know, the Spirit is gonna leap on you to say what you need to say. It says, for it shall be given in you in that same hour, which means time, what ye shall speak. It says, for it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speak within you. And that's with everything that we say. All right, that's with everything that we say. I'm about to go in here to the workplace. I can't go in here telling people, hey, don't call me such and such by my slave name, call me Monagon. That's not spiritual. All right, why? And that scenario, all right, that's Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai speaking for me, because we really have to play the Clark Kent mode at certain times. Sometimes, let me get Psalms, and that's another thing, knowing when and when not to speak. All right, sometimes things don't always need to be said, and I'll get that in the Apocrypha too, if I can remember. I believe it's Sirach 34, it might be 32. Just bear with me real quick while I hold that on deck in the pocket. Yeah, it's 32. All right. Sometimes you can be bold and not saying anything. You know, because a lot of people, what they do, they know we have answers, so they ask questions and try to be semantical to try and get an answer out you. But you can be boldly silent. You know, you can be bold and be silent, because the scripture also says a wise man will hold up his tongue knowing his time. All right, so this is Psalms or Tehillim 39, and I'm sorry, at the top it says, this is the chief musician of Manatazah, even unto Jeduthun, a psalm of Dewada. It says, I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle when the wicked is before me. And that's another thing, when we are speaking at camp, and I use this scenario. When we first started out pushing the truth down here in DC in 2008 era, 2009, that big influx of Yashar Allah coming in. When we were uptown in DC, you had Comfy, the dudes who dressed, the Israelites that dressed in white and red, are like the Rosicrucians or the Catholics. They came up to our camp in a great number, and they surrounded us in a semicircle. you know. And the one dude came up and said, who authorized you guys to be speaking out here, saying we can't be out here speaking? And I think it might have been like 5 of us in the camp against what, 15. Now at that point, and I couldn't say, hey, you get the fuck out of here or we gonna whoop your ass or some shit like that. No, what we did was we stuck to the word. Well, really, we were done with silence for a little bit, because it was literally, it might have been 2 or 3 weeks after my first time going out on the highways and byways, and then we're getting surrounded by all these men, you know, threatening us to get off the block. But the thing was, we were done with silence, but Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai was the one in control of it, and we were bold. We didn't just back down through the spirit, all right? We were bold with our silence, all right? So it says, verse 2, the Harim 39:2, I was dumb with silence, I held my peace, even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. So there's going to be times when you're in predicaments. You might be with family members, you might be with associates out somewhere, and you really, really, really want to say something, but you know that you can't. And what's going to happen? Your spirit's going to be stirred in you, but you're going to be done with silence, and then your sorrow is going to start building up, because we can't fully say certain things at certain times. All right, that's another thing about being spiritual. Verse 3, it says, my heart was hot within me, while I was musing the fire burned, then spake I with my tongue. Let me jump down. Okay, verse 9, it says, I was dumb, I opened not my mouth, because thou didst it. So ultimately, it's Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai that's going to make you bold in being silent too, as we ought to be. So there's a time as we ought to speak, and there's a time where we ought to be silent. All right, and that's called the perfect balance. Now, before I get the Sirach 32, let me get Sirach 20. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 20, verse 6, it says, let me start at verse 5. It says, there is one that keepeth silence and is found wise, and another by much babbling becometh hateful. All right, it says, verse 6, some man holdeth his tongue because he hath not to answer, and some man keepeth silent, knowing his time. Verse 7, a wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. All right, so those are just some words of wisdom right there. All right, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 32, same book. All right, different chapter and verse 32 and verse 3. It says, I'm sorry, let me start verse 4. It says, Sirach 32:4, pour not out words where there is a musician, and show not forth wisdom out of time. Right, show not forth wisdom out of time. That's the thing. Even Yahweh Shai said, cast not your pearls before swine. So that's being bold, and you know you got pearls and diamonds, and you're holding it back because you know the wicked is before you and they're going to trample them. That's being very bold and confident, because confidence means with faith. Con means with, the Latin fidem, all right, or the F-I-D-E basically means faith. Just like if somebody calls someone an infidel, it means without faith. All right, it says, well, that's the point. That's the point through the spirit. But yeah, that was it. You know, I got to get in here to the plantation. I just wanted to make sure that I just pushed that spirit of how we ought to speak. And I don't want to rock the Zah. Look out later on this evening when I get off the Shaddai, which means the plantation. I'm actually going to do, and I'll read it again, I'm going to do Ephesians as a quick prayer to speak boldly. Ephesians 6:19. I'm going to do that in the Hebrew. This portion here where it says, and for me that my utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly. All right. To make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. So no matter, no matter the situation, if you need to hold your peace, be boldly and being quiet, shutting the hell up, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai knows our thoughts and our intentions. All right, if you are called to speak, all right, and this is another thing for you brothers that are by yourself, like the brother in Germany. It's another reason why I wanted to do this. Even though you're by yourself, and the brother Gabar Yahawada, and the brother Yerumi in Alaska are great examples of, and the brothers down south, Manatazak and their brothers, they're great examples of speaking boldly. Even though you're by yourself, you speak boldly. All right, Yachanan, the baptizer, John the Baptist, was out there speaking boldly in the wilderness by himself for a minute. You know what I'm saying? So those are some examples. All right, that's why it says, "Inquire, I pray thee, of thy forefathers." You know, to the search of your fathers, because we have plenty of examples of our ancestors who went out there by themselves on their faith and spake boldly with their utterance. Why? Because we're ambassador and bonds of Yahweh Shai, as like the scripture said. So I pray and I know you were edified through this exhortation to just speak boldly as we ought to speak. Again, I want to say, Call halal Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Kakwadash, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Barakathum Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Hey, that's right. Even Noah, I'm looking at the comment board. Slaki, I couldn't get some of the precepts. My phone might fall over if I try and scroll through. But hey, Shalom, the water for all the edification on here. To our elders and apostles known as Great Millstone, God Wallah Raquab in these times, Sheni Kabad, Lakum, which means double honors to you all. And Lord willing, I'll be able to go through Ephesians 6 and 19 later on this evening as a quick prayer to ought to speak boldly. With that, I'm going to say Shalom wa Baraki, and peace and blessings to you elect. Allah Bukarim Yasha Allah. Shalom. Oh, and this is Salakia, one more thing. This goes for all ages as well. It doesn't matter how old you are. Yahweh Shah was very young. Jeremiah was very young. All right, so if you're a teenager and you're walking this, or a preteen and you're watching this, this goes for you. There's no excuse. You are to speak boldly as well. All right, Shalom.